Yeah,
Yes.
everybody is
Okay.
here now. And yeah, and also have been live stream.
Okay. So last time we have explained how ignorance develops into what we are experiencing now, the dual mind. Hmm? The dual mind is uh, has always a tendency for defilements. Hmm? Uh, so this dual mind, it comes, how it appears is explained, uh, was explained last time. It appears due to the what is called chitta. Chitta generally means in alaya consciousness. Hmm? Chitta means alaya consciousness. Now, chitta evolves into manas. Manas, Xuanzang explains as Siliang. It is the organ of thinking. And manas, that is the individual consciousness through which we see the world and ourselves. This is the continuity of our mind. And the continuity of our mind, which forms our thinking, then develops into the six kinds of consciousnesses. First, the mental consciousness, and then the eye consciousness, ear consciousness, the five sense consciousnesses, which are connected with the mental consciousness. They are based in mental consciousness. So when we see things, we see them as outside and we see them as something desirable or something not desirable. So we are, so to say, programmed, and we should understand how this program starts. This is what we have been trying to explain last lesson. All this program starts because of the no body, Wu Jue, our alaya, our store consciousness, base consciousness, in which the seeds of our previous experiences are stored. That's why it's called, the chitta is also called store consciousness, because it collects the seeds of our previous experiences. This store consciousness develops into what we experience as ourselves in the world. And how it develops, we should be very clear about it. So first, there has to be ignorance. When there is ignorance, then the mind is moving. It is not the nature of the mind to move, but it moves due to, we have explained, due to the karmic aspect of the consciousness which moves the mind. As soon as the mind moves, it immediately also has the aspect of witnessing, which is explained in different ways in the Cittamatrata tradition, in the Vaishya tradition, in the mind-only tradition. Generally, this mind karmic aspect is based on the swasamviti, the self-witnessing aspect of the mind. When there is this self-witnessing aspect of the mind, then the karma vijnana, the yesh, the karma consciousness or karma mind, moves. And when it moves, automatically at the same time, appears the aspect of the seer, which is called Tien Fen or Darshana Bhaga for those who study Sanskrit. And when there is Darshana Bhaga, then there is a Nimitta Bhaga, then there is the aspect of mind which when there is a seer, there is something to be seen. There is no such thing that there is a seer and there is something to be seen. So these three aspects of the mind, the self-witnessing aspect, the, uh, the aspect of the perceiver, and the aspect of the perceived, appear spontaneously together as soon as the mind starts to move due to ignorance. We should always remember that the nature of the mind is suchness. Suchness is the real nature of the mind. It is also called in Chinese tradition Gen Xin, the real mind. The real mind is suchness. Now, the suchness, when it moves, then it becomes the alaya consciousness. When it becomes the alaya consciousness, we have also learned that this alaya consciousness has two aspects, the aspect of awareness, jie, and the aspect of or aspect of body. Body means awareness, and the aspect of non-body, non-awareness. Now we are talking about the aspect of non-awareness. When there is the aspect of non-awareness, so the avidya or our ignorance develops or evolves. And it evolves because the karmic consciousness, yes, produces the Chuan which means avarjana chitta. Avarjana chitta means the aspect of the mind which turns to the object. And when there is an aspect of the mind which turns to the object, then there is what is called in Sanskrit khyati, the aspect of the mind which reveals. So when the mind turns to the object is revealed. And mind turns to the object because the karmic consciousness makes it move. So when the karmic consciousness makes it move, the mind move, then we are, so to say, exposed to dukkha, to trouble, to stress. But we don't see it. At this stage, we don't see it because, remember, we are explaining the tradition of mind only. Everything happens in the mind. The subject happens in the mind. The object happens in the mind. In which mind? In the mind which has the essence or the true nature of suchness. And this nature of suchness, even though it moves, it can never lose. It's always there. This suchness is the true nature of the mind. It is the true mind. And this true mind, when it moves, when something moves, it needs effort. And the effort happens because of the previous energies or tendencies, so-called vasanas or suchi, which are stored in our consciousness and which make it move. They, so to say, they dwell in the mind. Therefore, they are called vasanas, sichi. When they make the mind move, then the mind turns to the object. Now, so for those of us who study Theravada, and I have been formed in this tradition, basically, the mind process called chitta viti also starts with the consciousness of the same name. It is called avajana. Here, Sanskrit avarjana. First, we have to turn to the object. If the object is inside, it is the mental process of mental consciousness. If we experience the object as outside, it is a process of the five consciousnesses. So these two processes, they are explained as the chitta viti, meaning literally the street of the mind. Mind goes through the street because it has these vasanas, it has these tendencies. In this tradition, they are called bijas, jungzi, the seeds, which then make the mind move. So these three aspects which we have explained, they are, so to say, based on the illusion, on the ignorance. But when they appear at this stage, there is not yet, we have explained, not yet sequence. It does not mean that the karma consciousness, the perceiving consciousness and the perceived consciousness appear separately. They appear always together in the alaya consciousness, and the alaya consciousness is the neutral consciousness or undefined consciousness. It is neither itself. It is vipaka. It is a resultant consciousness. So itself, it is neither kusala, neither wholesome nor unwholesome. That is why it can store the seeds of wholesome or unwholesome thought processes. So these three aspects of the mind which we have explained, the self-witnessing aspect, svasamviti, the perceiving aspect, the darshana bhaga, and the perceived aspect or object aspect, subject aspect, object aspect, we can also call them like this. They appear together in the consciousness due to these seeds of previous consciousnesses which make the suchness move. So, but the suchness we have explained last time, the suchness, the true aspect of the mind, never gets lost. So that move, that's why we call it suchness genru. When these objects appear in it, they appear as being the part of suchness. So one mind. So the consciousness creates real objects through itself, through the consciousness itself. We don't need any outer object to create a movement in the consciousness. The movement comes from the consciousness itself, and it comes through ignorance. So these three aspects of the mind, they can be compared to the shadow, and the suchness is the body or the essence which you need in order that the shadow appears. Hmm? But the shadow never leaves the body. You cannot have a shadow without a body. So these three aspects, they are like a shadow, they are like the images in the mirror, but the images in the mirror can never leave the mirror. So once these three aspects appear, we have explained, then there is the aspect of differentiating wisdom called Zhi Xiang. Xiang, remember, I have explained, translates nimitta, and nimitta means aspect. Nimitta, we can say also can mean object. Nimitta can mean sign of the object. You need a sign of the object in order to have perception. And the sign of the object, like a shadow, appears in the mind itself. And then, this is peculiarity of this tradition, when it appears, then there is the aspect of differentiating wisdom. This differentiating wisdom uh, creates the illusion that there is touch with a real object. Hmm? So, in the terms of dependent origination, when there is active consciousness, then there is nama rupa. There is the consciousness and the object differentiated. When there is consciousness and object differentiated, there appear the senses and there appear the uh, contact, paso, nama rupa pachaya paso, the uh, subjective and the objective, the mind and its object, when they come together, they condition a contact. When there is a contact, so we have either manapa, either pleasant contact with the object, or we have the unpleasant contact with the object, or we have neutral contact with the object. So according to this contact, we have either pleasant sensation, unpleasant sensation, and neither pleasant nor unpleasant sensation. So now, due to this aspect of the differentiating wisdom, we have this shadow becomes a reality. It really exists. Before these three previous aspects, this like the the images in the mirror still remain in the mirror, which is the consciousness. Now, the aspect, this shadow, becomes a reality because because there is contact, and due to contact, we distinguish between what is pleasant, what is unpleasant, and so due to pleasant and unpleasant, we give rise to thinking about the objects as if they were outside the mind. So this differentiating wisdom, which it's not mentioned in the classical philosophy of Chittamatra of Vaishya, as explained by Xianzang, Chen Weishelun, and so on. It does not exist. But it is very important here because this tradition joins this differentiating aspect, which produces the illusion of continuity, And due to this continuity, we then differentiate based on the pleasant and unpleasant contact with the object. So the mind has inclination, and mind has inclination because it relies on the continuity. It produces continuity. How it produces continuity? Because the contact, the faso, vachaya, vedana, the contact, the touch produces sensation, produces feeling. So because as Chula Vedala Sutta is explained in Pali also, and it's explained very clearly in Mahayana as well, this Vedana, the sensation, produces inclination, and inclination produces continuity, and continuity produces tanha, the desire. Desire produces grasping. So due to this, we have these 5 aspects of the mind. They are connected in our scripture. This is a peculiarity of the scripture and very, very precious for understanding the mind. These 5 aspects of the mind, they, in this tradition, they are called manas. The manas is the subtle aspect of the mind, which is responsible for the continuity of the mind. So in Chinese, this Zhixiang aspect of differentiating wisdom evolves into the aspect of continuity. Xiangxi, Xiangxi, Xiang. The aspect of continuity is based on the mind differentiating according to sensation and thereby producing inclinations of mind which are responsible for the continuity of the mind. So this manas is very subtle mind. And unless we have deep realization, we don't understand this subtle, how this subtle mind actually decides, how this organ of thinking, how this suryang, how this thinking, subtle thinking, decides what we actually experience by the 6 senses, starting with the mental consciousness. So it, so to say, this manas, organ of thinking, launches us into the continuous thinking based on the idea that the self and the objects that we perceive have this some own nature. Zhixin, swabhava. Because we think that the objects that we perceive through the organ of thinking have their own nature. Therefore, we give rise to clinging to the self, atma graha, and clinging to uh, the phenomena, dharma graha. Here, dharma we can translate as the phenomena. Remember the beginning of the scripture? Beginning of the scripture, the author, whoever it may be, explains the Dharma as being one mind of sentient beings. So this one mind of sentient beings develops from the suchness. And it is the suchness covered by ignorance in the sentient beings is called, as we have learned, Rulai Zan, the Tathagata Garbha, the metrics of the Tathagata. Tathagata means the fully realized Buddha. The fully realized Buddha is the synonym of Dharma Dhatu. The real Buddha is the Dharma Dhatu. And Dharma Dhatu as the and the real Buddha, as the Diamond Sutra, Chinkanchin explains, one who sees the Buddha by means of the Hyang, by means of characteristics, by means of the signs, he does not see the Buddha, because the real Buddha is Dharma Dhatu. And Dharma Dhatu is the real Shin, is a real Svabhava, is a real own nature of all the phenomena. But because we do not see it in our ignorance, we hold to the self and we hold to the phenomenon. And we hold to the self, we hold to the phenomena because of this aspect of continuity of the mind, which explains the organ of thinking. Organ of thinking is the continuity of the mind, nothing else. Now, this organ of thinking has the function of Surya. It is thinking, but it does not see that the thinking is never separated from the true aspect of the mind. Therefore, we say Genru. Gen is a true aspect of the mind, and the Ru is what is experienced. But we experience it by because we have ignorance, so it is covered, but yet it is true. It is like the true mind. It never, because it can never leave the true mind, because the ignorance is not true. Because it is not true, and even if we have defiled mind, it can, in this tradition of the Tathagata Garbha, metrics of Tathagata, we can never leave the true mind, which has not the nature of movement. The movement is due to the effort. Effort is due to attention, and this attention comes from the tendencies or inclinations we have gathered in the mind. So, without even knowing it, these 5 aspects, subtle aspects of the mind, they form our continuity, and they, so to say, program our thinking. So when this subtle aspect of the mind develops further, it becomes the mental consciousness And through mental consciousness, we then perceive ourselves and the world. Hmm? So that's why, due to this mental consciousness, we have desire. And when we have desire, we have the objects which are desired. Hmm? There cannot be desire without the objects which are desired. And the objects which are desired, they have been created by the mind itself. By which mind? By manas, by individual minds. That's why we are all different, because we all have different individual experiences based on different karma. Hmm? Due to this different karma, we have a different aspect of differentiating wisdom and a different aspect of continuity. Yet the principle of manas is the same. It comes from the mind itself. So first, there is ignorance, which is called Ken Pen Wu Ming, the uh, root ignorance. The root ignorance moves the mind, and because the root ignorance moves the mind, then comes the aspect, the secondary aspect of ignorance, which are these five subtle aspects, which are here explained as manas, as organ of thinking, which determines how we differentiate the outside objects. But this manas is very subtle, being very subtle, so we do not see how it creates the tendency of believing in what is called vikalpa, in that object that we perceive, and that the perceiver, they have the true own nature. There is no such thing as true own nature in the subject and the object. This idea of uh, subject and object being different comes from this organ of thinking, which is called manas, or from the individualizing aspect of the mind. Then once we have this individualizing aspect of the mind, then we differentiate our this subject and object according to this aspect. So we have desire and we have objects which are uh, desired, and we have dislike and we have objects which we dislike. And we are caught in this differentiation and follow it, this differentiation, which is gross, in this manas aspect of the mind, individualizing aspect of the mind. This aspect of differentiation is very subtle. Now, this aspect of differentiation becomes very gross. And when it becomes gross, then the first gross aspect of the mind, when it grasps, is the aspect of grasping. 知趋向. 知 means we can translate as attachment, and chi means holding. We hold to our attachment. We hold to what is desirable and what is not desirable. And so we hold this gross aspect of the mind as having the true subject and the true object. So we come to that part of the dependent origination, which is this sensation, which is based on touch, produces tanha or trishna or I. I is the most wonderful thing we beings have, but here it is in the not in positive sense. It's in the negative sense of uh, grasping, because we identify with these inclinations of the mind. Then Vedana Pachaya Tanha, our sensation gives rise to grasping. And so we are subjected to also to gross forms of suffering. When there is a tanha, when there is a thirst or desire, then there will be upadana, then there will be uh, appropriation or uh, appropriation of the object as being something having one's true nature, as existing in their own right, separate from the mind, and we want to appropriate them as something belonging to the self and something which has a true nature of its own. So here we are in trouble, because due to the inclinations of the mind, which we don't see as something illusionary, something produced by the mind itself, by the mind created by ignorance. So this desire and attachment produces the vikalpa, the fenpie, the illusionary differentiation of the self and of something that belongs to self. Atma, Atmaniya, Wo, Je, and Wo, So, Je. The attachment and desire of, for the self and for that which belongs to the self. And because we have this desire for the self and that which belongs to self based on vikalpa, based on illusionary differentiation, so we create a reality based on concepts. And we take these concepts as the real. So we give rise to illusionary thinking, spontaneously, almost all the time. Illusionary thinking means that there is a real subject and a real object, and that this the real subject and the real object really are based in reality. So we believe in the concepts of reality. The ordinary man imposes on the reality. We judge the reality not according to its true nature, but according to the illusionary thinking, which is produced by this aspect of the continuity of the mind. This continuity of the mind, that is our individualizing mind. So this naturally when there is this aspect of grasping, there will appear the aspect of fabricating names and syllables, which we take as corresponding to the reality which really exists outside. But as we all know, the idea of reality which exists outside is very, very different, because we have all different desires and different attachments. But as soon as we have desires and attachment, we are fabricating the reality based on concepts as something being really there. So due to this mental consciousness always searches, as Nidana Sutta and so on, the Pali canon explains, due to desire, we are always searching for objects which we take for real. We are not searching for something which we don't take for real at this stage. At this stage, we are always chasing after the objects which we believe to be real. So we hold to names or syllables, not all beings hold to these complicated concepts. We can have a simple concept according to the evolution of language in the early period of humanity. We were also like animals, conveying meaning by syllables, by sounds. Then they became a more complicated concept, abstract concept. And due to these, our ideas of the reality based on the fabrication of the real essence in the subject and real essence in the object, which is true and which is really there, we create the new karma. That is the upadana pachaya bhava. Due to appropriating, we give rise to a new existence. Existence means accumulation of samskaras. This accumulation of samskaras is called in Sanskrit abhisamskara. Abhisamskara, Chinese translates into Zao. We are creating, accumulating new karma based on grasping but we are not aware that actually we are not grasping at reality. We are grasping at the fabrication of reality based on these names and concepts that we believe to be corresponding to something which is really there and has always been there. So this vikalpa, this illusionary differentiation of the self as something to be held and the object as something to be held, to be grasped. This moves our mind to producing and accumulating a new karma. So we create new existences, upadana, pachaya bhava. So this the these two previous aspects, the aspect of grasping and aspect of fabricating names and names and syllables, concepts through sounds, through communication, we then move our body, our speech, and our mind to produce a new karma, and to accumulate new karma by abhisamskaras, by giving rise to new and new fabrications. So we accumulate the samskaras, we accumulate the will formations, and when we accumulate the will formations, when we accumulate the karma, then there is the aspect of karma bondage, which produces suffering. And this explains the bhava, pachaya jati, pachaya marana, the existence based on clinging produces birth, and birth produces death and new suffering. This is the traditional explanation of the dependent origination. Now, here it is based on the dependent origination based on the suchness hidden in the mind of us sentient beings, and that suchness hidden in the mind of sentient beings is called the matrix of Tathagata. From this matrix of Tathagata, everything is born. Because, as we have seen, even with all this ignorance we produce and we accumulate, we can never leave the true aspect of the mind, which is not, can never move. The dharmata, the things as they are, or the non-dual suchness, we can never leave. And this is the dharma element. This is the true nature of the things as they really are. And the true nature of the thing here is that the dependent origination, which Buddha explained as starting with ignorance, never leaves and cannot leave the true aspect of the mind, which is not based in ignorance. It is based in the true nature of the things as they are. And the Tathagata is one who is coming in this aspect of the mind which is true and going to the aspect of the mind which is true, because he has fully realized this potential of omniscience, which is innate to the true nature of the mind. So the true nature of the mind, this is very interesting. We, in a way, we lose when we put objects in the mind. Put objects in the mind in Chinese, same like in Sanskrit, is called manasikara, tuo-i. We make objects in the mind. So we make objects in the mind, it is translated into English as attention. We pay attention to the object as something being really there. So the mind moves. And when the mind moves, it moves from these subtle aspects that we have explained to the gross aspects. And this is the dependent origination based on the metrics of Tathagata. Now, very important to understand, I have explained many times, in the Vaisha, in the mind-only philosophy, and in a way, all Mahayana is connected with this philosophy, even when we are believing in the philosophy of Nagarjuna, in the middle way. The middle way questions the true existence of mind. Nothing can exist in its own nature, but it nevertheless still agrees that everything we can know is based on the mind. And this is also in a way, the basic idea of Buddhism. The mind is the forerunner of all things. Mano Pubangama Dhamma, Mano Seta, the mind guides all things, and Manomaya, all things are contained in the mind. This is nothing really Mahayana. The dependent origination is based on the mind. And dependent origination is what the Buddha realized under the Bodhi tree. And as we have explained before, even according to Vinaya, what the Buddha has seen under the Bodhi tree is the potential of the beings for realization, which is symbolized as a lotus in the heart. And as we should know and meditate, all the bodhisattvas, all the truly realized being, they are born from this lotus. And this lotus is here nothing but this innate potential of the beings to realize the suchness. As the Mahayana Sutras explain, if this potential was not there, we would never be able to realize anything, not even the individual realization of the disciples. So then last time we have also explained that the relation between suchness and the ignorance is in terms of sameness and in terms of difference. Sameness is, we have explained, is all beings, like all pots are made of clay, all beings are always in a nirvana. In that aspect, the true aspect of the mind, they are all same. That's why one mind. But they are different as regard the differentiation, which are either subtle when we make a deeper and deeper realization, or very gross when we completely identify with our greed and with our hate. So the opposites that we experience in the world, the relations that we experience in the world are due to differentiation. But the differentiation is not hmm, the true nature of the mind. The true nature of the mind is nirvana. But because we don't see it, we suffer. Now, the next part of our treatise explains the causes and conditions of being in samsara. This is what we are. We are sentient beings because we uh, are in samsara. Hmm? We are in the state of arising and ceasing. But in this tradition, this arising and ceasing is illusionary. Uh, it is the result of ignorance. And ignorance because of what? Because we don't see the chitta, explains the scripture, as being the cause of samsara. Hmm? The chitta is the mind which collects the seeds of our previous experiences. Hmm? This chitta evolves into manas, as we have explained. Hmm? Manas is a continuity of the mind based on these five aspects of the mind that we have explained. Hmm? The uh, aspect of karmic consciousness, aspect of the Zhuangzi, the perceiver consciousness, the aspect of the perceived, hmm? The aspect of the differentiating wisdom, and the aspect of continuity. Hmm? This is, in this tradition, alaya. Hmm? And this alaya has two aspects. We have explained the aspect of enlightenment and the aspect of non-enlightenment. Now we are explaining the aspect of enlightenment, hmm, which are of non-enlightenment, sorry. Non-enlightenment, we have learned, only exists in relation to the enlightenment. When we understand it, we get, as we have explained, into the process of getting enlightened. Hmm? And in this process of getting enlightened, the chitta, the cause of samsara, evolves into manas, and manas evolves into six consciousnesses through which we judge the world. Hmm? So alaya is the origin of the phenomena. Manas is their continuity. Hmm? The alaya essence is the Tathagata Garbha, is the uh, womb of the Tathagata, which is contained in all beings. And the alaya attributes are the objects and images that we see. But we, ignorant beings, we take them for being real, for being the essence, for having own nature of their own. So we base our understanding on our six consciousnesses, which uh, create the defilements. And so we don't see that, as the scripture, the commentaries explain, many commentaries and different explanations. We don't go into that, otherwise we will never finish. But the main idea is that the suchness is a cause and ignorance is the conditions. Then the cause and conditions together, hmm, this is dependent origination, give rise to alaya. And through alaya, the uh, ignorance pervades the suchness, and this is what we are. We beings, this is the main message of the scripture. We beings are, so to say, the perversion of ignorance. But again, this ignorance is pervaded by suchness. When we engage in the process of enlightenment, we have learned in the beginning is called uh, which means literally going back to the beginning. The beginning is a nirvana here, or suchness. So this continuity that we experience and through which we uh, experience ourselves and the world belongs to manas, not to chitta. Chitta has no continuity, as we have explained in it. At the same time, in the same moment, appear these three aspects of the mind: self-witnessing aspect, the aspect of the perceiver, and the aspect of the perceived. So this is how the Tathagata Garbha, which is the Shulai Zhang, which is uh, true, becomes Alaya, which is Ru. So Alaya being the combination of the uh, enlightened aspect of the mind, the non-enlightened aspect of the mind. We do not see why. Sandi Nirmochana Sutra explains very clearly, also mentioned and developed in the Mahayana Samgraha Sutra, Shirtashen Lun. The small Dharma does not see the small Dharma. So we do not see that no mind is, so to say, not separated from the true mind. The small mind, this is our differentiating mind. And the small mind only knows the small dharma that we differentiate and does not know the whole, does not know the one mind, does not know the suchness, which is a whole. So by differentiation, we cannot understand the whole. So differentiation is a small mind, and small mind can only see the small objects, and because it sees the small objects, it takes the essence and its characteristics. It takes the what Huayan calls the principle and the facts, the as being something separate, but they have never been separate. So I think let us finish here, and the next week we will explain how this how to go back to purity through understanding of these functions of the mind, which we have explained: the karma consciousness, the evolving consciousness, the revealing consciousness, differentiating wisdom consciousness, and so on. Hmm? So before we were explaining them on the base of non-body, which creates ignorance, the primary aspect of ignorance, which is ignorance itself, and the secondary aspect of ignorance, which are this all these moving minds and the differentiation which it develops. Hmm? And now we will explain from the point of view of going back to purity, how to abandon samsara by penetrating the ignorance, and again starting from the beginning, from the mind which moves, which we should understand as being illusionary. So we have two ways of understanding the enlightenment. We have the aspect of gradual practice, and we have the aspect of sudden enlightenment. Both aspects here, they are put together. The true mind is always nirvana. We can never leave the nirvana, yet we realize it by the gradual process. So in the Zen tradition, this is the difference between Shenshu, who represent the gradual process, and Huineng, the sixth patriarch, which represent the sudden enlightenment. They are actually not different, just a different method. And the sudden enlightenment means cultivation of the understanding that this mind which moves is by its very nature illusionary. This is what Xuanzang explains in his verse. Is it Bodhi Pen Wu Shu Yin Qing Jing Yi Wu Tai Pen Lai Wu Yi Shen Chu Re Ren Ai. The the enlightenment does not need any tree, and the bright mirror, which we should always polish, as Shenshu say, has no stand. So in the origin, there was nothing real. So where can the dust settle down? So with this, we end today's lecture, and try to think about it, and we continue again from this karma consciousness aspect, but this time understanding the different functions of the mind, how they develop, how from chitta evolves manas, and from manas the six consciousnesses. Okay, so that much for today. And I hope all of us can benefit from this great teaching. And let us meet next Saturday, that is sure, because on Saturday all the students in the course, they are free, so I will be also free, and I can teach prepare for the teaching as it becomes more and more intricate and we have to get things together. Hmm? So it needs certain clarity. So let me read again the following passages and I will try my best to put them together so that you have a clear image and clear continuity and understand the incredible wisdom of the author of this treatise. Let it be Ashwagosha or let it be any enlightened monk. This treatise indeed is unique and worthy of studying in depth. So let us transfer merit for the benefit of all sentient beings. 愿你之功德不计显，我等一众生皆恐见佛道。Okay, so good evening to you. For you, it's a good night. You must be late already, no? What is the time in Indonesia?
It's almost 9 o'clock,
9
9 p.m.
o'clock,
Yeah,
9 p.m. Oh,
9 p.m. Yeah, almost. Yeah.
that's not too bad. Uh, so please have a good rest and see you next Saturday at 6:15 the Kathmandu time, and
Okay.
your time will be
7:30 p.m.
7 p.m. Huh?
Yeah,
Okay,
7:30.
okay,
Thank you,
friends.
Pastor, for
If
today. Or for other friends, yeah, who wants to get the teaching recording, you can go to Indonesian Chan Community channel in YouTube. We have record all the teaching from Pastor, and you can all uh see the recording on that channel. Thank you.
and Suyana, also there is this one Czech friend. His name is Jakob.
Yeah.
He is responsible for doing the website. Hmm? So please send it to him. You have his email address, no?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I already sent him the YouTube link, Pastor.
Yes,
Okay.
Bante,
So please
we
send
are in
him
contact.
also.
We are in contact with
Oh,
Viana,
okay.
and
Yeah.
I put it.
So
Thank you to Viana. I put it on web page.
okay, okay. So all the best to all of you, and we keep in touch. And please prepare some good questions so that I give me a challenge, so that I can try to find the good answers best to my ability, to the best of my ability. And so much for now. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you all. Bye bye all. Thank you.
Makasih Viana.
Makasih loh semuanya.